Thank you so much. I am so honored to be here today. And we just blew in from Vermont. It's pretty windy up in the sky. But I just want to tell you how proud I am to be here. I want to thank General President Harold Schaeberger for that extraordinarily warm welcome. We enjoyed welcoming him to Burlington not so long ago. And it's great to be here with you. I'm also grateful to General Secretary Tom Miller for his extraordinary work, to District Vice President Mike Mullane, a good Boston boy who's doing great work for this union. And a special thanks to my friend Matt Vincey, President of Vermont Firefighters, doing an extraordinary job. Mostly to all of you, congratulations, we're proud of you. I hear you've heard from a pretty exciting cast of characters today. My friend George Carville called me up last night. We've known each other a long time, and he said, tell me something to tell the firefighters. I said, well, tell them that a firefighter voting for a Republican is like a chicken voting for Colonel Sanders. Did he use that line? Yeah. Oh, God damn him, because I was going to use it. Anyway, it was a good line, huh? So you got to give the Vermont boys some credit for that one. So I am so honored to be here with all of you. There is very few people in America that I hold in higher esteem than the professional firefighters, the folks who work so hard to ensure that we keep our communities safe and that you're there sacrificing your lives every day for our safety. When Matt Vincey and I get together, we get some pretty tough things done. And I've had the honor of working with Matt over the last several years to establish the Vermont Paramedic Training Program, which really is some of the finest training for paramedics in the state. I was really excited to go to the graduation this year in January to see so many of our professional firefighters graduating from that program. We've worked together, as your president just mentioned, to direct unused Homeland Security dollars to the IAFF Fire and Ground Survival Program. That's been very successful. But one of the most enjoyable moments for me was when I got a call from Matt about a year ago. And he said, listen, there's a governor from Wisconsin that no one's heard much about, and he's going to be testifying before some committee in Congress. And we would like, I'm going to turn my phone off so it stops buzzing. And we would like you to come down and say a few words and, you know, sit and testify, because we've got no one there, no governor who's willing to tell the other side of the story. Well, I'd never testified in Congress. I'm a Vermont boy, born and raised. I'd rather be out hunting than sit in a tie in Congress, and what I enjoy most about coming to Washington, D.C. is flying home. So I said, yeah, okay, well, you know, I'll go. So I get down here, and Matt was here, and Marlin Mitchell, who's running for Lieutenant Governor of Wisconsin, let's give him a shout out. He was here. So anyway, this is what I love about Washington, D.C., and every time I come here, I get a new lesson, but this one you'll enjoy. So I'm sitting there, we get brought into this testifying room or whatever. I'm a new governor, I've never testified before Congress, and there's all these folks sitting in these long, you know, whatever they got, they look like a theater, and you're down in the chairs. And well, first Matt and I had breakfast with our Congressman Welch. I had a couple cups of coffee and a couple glasses of water. Then we go down and we testify, and we're sitting there, and you know, Scott Walker was a media star, and I'm just the guy from Vermont, right? No one's heard of me. So I'm sitting there next to him, and he's going on, and I get a shot in once in a while. I'll tell you what I told him later. So this goes on for around 4 hours. I thought I was going to be there, like in Vermont, we'd have done this in 15 minutes, right? But these congressional people, I guess they got nothing better to do, these Republicans who are picking on the public employees. So 4 hours, I'm sitting there, well, I'm drinking water because I'm a little nervous. Well, around 3.5 hours, I realized that I really need a bathroom break. And I got to get it pretty soon. So I'm looking around, and I turn to Matt, and I say, you know, is there a bathroom in this place? Of course, this committees keep asking questions going on. They mostly wanted to hear from Walker, not from me. So finally, I just say, listen, this is getting bad. Like, I don't want to do this Vermont style. I got to get up and find a bathroom. So I pop out of my chair, and I beeline it down the hall, up the side, into the, say, the committee room, you know, all the committee workers there, you know, you got a place that I could go to the bathroom. And, oh, yeah, so they take me around, and I can hear through the wall, and the chair's going, he's banging, where's the governor from Vermont? Where's the governor from Vermont? I had another question for the governor of Vermont. What happened to the governor of Vermont, you know? So I'm sitting in this bathroom trying to make this as quick as I can, but it's been a long time, so you know how it is. It takes a little time. So I finally get wrapped up, and I run back out, and I hustle in my chair. I say, sorry, Mr. Chair, I want to apologize to you for holding things up. I hope I didn't. I just had to take a little break. Well, Scott Walker, Governor Walker, turns to me, he goes, did you go to the bathroom? I said, yeah. He goes, well, I got to go really badly. I said, well, you know, these guys don't seem to give anyone a break. I mean, I thought it was pretty obvious. I was shifting in my chair and moving around, and finally, you know, I had the break for it. I said, but it's back there if I can help you. It's the first and last time I tried to help him. So he gets up, and he gets out of his chair, and guess what happens in Washington, D.C.? The chair of the committee gavels the place down. My friends, the governor from Wisconsin needs a break. We'll take 10 minutes. And they gave him a break. I said, my God, even going to the bathroom is partisan in this town. Anyway, welcome to Washington. I wanted just to tell you a few words about where we are, why what you're doing is so important. And sometimes I stand here as a governor from the little state of Vermont, where we tend to do things that make sense on a bipartisan basis, and I wonder what planet I've landed on. And I bet that you feel that way every day. We know that what makes this country great is the American dream. The notion that every one of us has the opportunity to work hard, to feed our families, to make a good living, to be better and more successful, we hope, than our parents and our grandparents. Never in our nation's history has there been a bigger divide between those that have the resources, the top 1%, and all of the rest of America. And what we are trying to do as Democratic governors and Democrats across the country is to ensure that the dream stays alive, that regardless of who you are or what you are or where you came from, we create jobs and economic opportunities after the worst recession in American history for every single American. And we're making some progress. But it is not because of the solution that has been brought to us by the Republican Party. Now think about this for a minute. Just recent history and how quickly we forget. Bear Stearns, Lehman Brothers, AIG, the entire team on Wall Street put together a scheme to get the 1% wealthier that makes Bonnie and Clyde look like they didn't know what they were doing. The biggest scheme to rip off working Americans in the history of America. And what was the outcome? The biggest recession in our history. Extraordinary pain for working families. Highest unemployment rate in years. Extraordinary job loss. Our own automobile companies almost going bankrupt. You know the history. The list goes on and on. And what I find so astonishing to this day is that the Republican Party believes that the solution to our economic problems is to go after the people who work hardest for America than anyone else. Our firefighters, our law enforcement folks, our public employees, and say to them, Wall Street's scamming was your fault, and we're going to solve this problem on your backs by taking away your rights. This is the great work that you're doing. By standing up and saying, no way, no how, we're not going to take it. And look how far we've come in just 1 year. When I was at the National Governors Association meeting just a year ago in this city, there was a demonstration outside of the hotel. And hundreds of union workers were out there protesting against Wisconsin, against Ohio, against Michigan, against Florida, against the governors who were going to balance their budgets on the backs of organized labor and by outlawing collective bargaining. And I said to some of my Democratic and Republican friends, hey, let's go down there and give those guys a shout out. And every one of them looked at me and said, no, we better not get involved. So I went downstairs, I grabbed the mic. There must have been 400 or 500 hard-working union employees there. And I gave him hell. And you know what? That wasn't very popular then. Folks thought that Scott Walker and the governor from Ohio and the Koch brothers were going to get their way. In 1 year, you and we have collectively stood up, and the American middle class is saying, no way, no how. This isn't fair, this isn't right, and we're not taking your collective bargaining rights. So thank you for your great work. And now we got to go win in Wisconsin, and we got to win in Ohio, and we got to win in Florida, and we got to win in Michigan. There is no more important election cycle than this one. We will turn the tide on this extraordinarily frightening proposition that by balancing state budgets on the backs of our public employees, by telling them they don't have the right to collective bargaining, by taking away their defined benefit contribution plans and instead taking away your right to a good living after you work for a lower wage because you sacrifice for the public good, and all you're asking for is a decent retirement when you're done, we're not letting them take those rights. No way, no how. And I say the American people are coming with us on that one. And how about these Republican presidential candidates all running around the country saying what they're saying? You know, I almost thought that I had landed from another planet the day I was watching one of the debates, and Herman Cain was still in the race. Now, you all know that the people that ran against me and ran against Scott Walker and ran against some of the governors that won, the Tea Party governors, were funded by the Koch brothers. You get that, right? They put a lot of money into one simple gamble, that if they could dump enough money into those campaigns, they would elect right-wing governors who would take away the right to collectively bargain. That was their game plan. And there was Herman Cain speaking to the Koch brothers and thousands of others at a convention, and his line was, you know, the Koch brothers are my brother from another mother. That was the quote. Now they're out there debating whether or not women should be allowed to use contraception. I thought my mom got that settled back before I was born in 1956. I mean, this election, let's remember what it's about. It's about your rights. It's about rebuilding a middle class. It's about adding jobs. It's about real issues, education for our kids so that we compete with the rest of the world in the workforce of the 21st century. It's about affordable universal health care so that health care is a right and not a privilege. It's about ensuring that we're teaching math and technology and engineering to our kids. It's not about dividing America. It's not about taking away rights that we fought for hundreds and tens of decades of years ago. It's not about picking on the people who protect us every single day, the firefighters who ensure that we live in safe communities. So I want to close by saying this. As a Democratic governor, I will stand up for you and your rights every single day, and I will demand that the other Democrats join me in doing so, and they will. What I ask from you is that we redouble the effort. We work even harder. We ensure that we send a clear message in this 2012 election. No one can expect to attack the middle class, the working class, the American people by making collective bargaining an evil word, by taking away our pensions, our rights, and fair pay for an honest day's work. The people that protected you and sacrificed their lives in 9/11, the people that keep your homes from burning down, the people that keep your businesses safe are the people that we should pay better than the rest to ensure that we protect our communities. That's the message we'll send together. Let's get it done. Keep up the great work. I'm incredibly honored to be here today, incredibly proud of the work you do every single day for all of us. Thank you so much.